the world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Hello. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and now you are in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller and yours truly as co-host, Mr. Bobby. And this is radio the way it should be heard. Okay, phone lines are open now, and you can call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY at gmail.com. You can also listen to us by and hear us by going to the YouTube channel, typing in the word Talktainment, then typing in the word radio, and then scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live, and there you go. Hit the subscribe and like button there. We would prefer you to do like you're doing now, just listening to it on the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage. Just hit programs or listen live. Then you're right there. Hit the subscribe and like button there. And finally, you can go to Facebook.com/Talktainment if you would like, and you can hear the replay of the entire program. Let's get this house cleaned out the way. We still need your donations for this second hour. If this program is very good to you or informative, and I'm even speaking to those who are in other countries who listen to the program. Listen, nothing in this life is free, and we need your contribution. So I'm asking you, ma'am, I'm asking you, sir, to go ahead and send in your donations to the program. All you have to do is go to the home page, and you see that gold button. Hit donate any amount that you want to, so that we can have the second hour done. Okay, I think that's all we have to do. Okay, let me present to some and introduce to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
All right, coming in loud and clear. That's real good. Okay, today's subject is taken from an email, Gmail, and it's entitled Drugs, the New Economics in the System of White Supremacy Racism. It came from this brother, and this is what he said, Mr. Fuller. He said, could you please ask Mr. Fuller a question about drugs being the economy of the black community? It seems like a lot of people, Mr. Fuller, when they have parties, they break out weed, liquor, and other stuff. Don't seem to have money for anything else, but they always seem to have money for that. So this brother was asking, asked Mr. Fuller, is about drugs being the economy of the black community, if you will, within this system of white supremacy racism.
Seems that way. Certainly is a big part of it. If you remember, if you want to use somewhat as a signal or a guideline, the movie Godfather that I refer to quite often, when all of the Dons got together and decided that they were going to go into the drug business wholesale, because the other types of businesses that they were in, the unions and the gambling, was kind of tapering off. So they said that we're going to have to find a new vehicle for bringing in income. And what would that vehicle be? And they said, well, drugs. But then some people objected to it because they said, well, we've stayed away from drugs all these years. We knew about it, but we don't want to dabble in that because eventually it might backfire and come to haunt our own people, the people that we don't want to harm. And say, well, we'll restrict it, we'll control it. Don't have it near schools because that's an infirmary, as one character in the movie said, and we will sell it to the coloreds, the dark people. Let them lose their souls. They're nothing but animals anyway. And so, black people who are always looking for something new or something that people say is exotic or different, we'll starve for some type of attention or some type of doing something. Trying to find our significance in the planet. And so the white supremacists, who are always making plans for everything, they are very careful. The best planners in the world, the top planners, the most powerful planners, they just say, well, black people are looking for something, to latch on to. Well, they're not too aware of anything. They never think in terms of the big picture. They just see right whatever's going on right in front of them, that's what they grab. So we'll put drugs there. Mm-hmm. And that way they won't be out there demonstrating in the street about they need factory jobs and all that type of thing. And not only that, it will cause all kinds of problems for them. And then they'll get strung out on the drugs, and then they'll have to be in the rehab and all that type of thing. Plus, they'll be slaughtering each other about the drugs. Plus, they'll rob each other and steal from each other in order to get the drugs. So, yeah, it's destructive among them, and it will give us plenty of revenue, and we won't have to watch them too close either because they won't have time to be paying attention to us because they'll be too busy doing a terrible job on each other. So anything that's destructive to non-white people, the white supremacists are always for it, and they'll always make it available. So in answer to the question, yes, why not drugs? And then later on, and even among, later on in the future, if they can think of anything else. Mm-hmm. As long as it's non-constructive, dumping on black people. Mm-hmm. If it's something that's absolutely stupid and silly or non-constructive, that's where black people are allowed. They open the door for you. Mm-hmm. That's where they tell you to come on in. You can join the meeting now. Join the club. Mm-hmm. 'Cause we got something new for you. You people are always looking for something new. We got something new for you. Mm-hmm. All right? You haven't heard of this. Mm-hmm. These are Harlem Purples. And you might say, what's Harlem Purples? Well, it's a new type of pill. It'll make you feel good. Mm.
Now, he mentioned it being an economic barometer in the black community, and you've often referred to economics as time and energy. Can you relate drugs as being that?
Well, it's not economical. The use of time and energy, that's not an economical use of time and energy, mm-hmm. which is what the white supremacists are always opposed to black people doing anything constructive in the use of their time and energy. The only time the white supremacists look at black people and say, now, we're going to have you doing something constructive, it's going to be something that's going to benefit the system of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. That's what it's for. But anything that is non-constructive, this is what you reserve for the black people. Now, like I said, they open the door to the meeting then. That's when they open the door. You're banging on the door saying, what's going on in there? Okay. Let us in, whatnot. And they're having a meeting, first of all, about how you're going to strengthen white supremacy. Mm-hmm. All right, and once they decide on how they're going to go about doing that for the next 50 years or the next 500 years or whatever, then they say, now the black people are out there knocking on the door. They want to get in and see what's going on in here. And so they ain't got nothing going on among themselves, so they want to see what we're doing.
Okay.
So let them in.
All right, now.
So when they let you in, be prepared. Everything that they propose is going to be non-constructive.
Non-constructive, okay.
But it's going to be all done up in a nice purple package.
Okay.
Or blue ribbon on it or whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Right.
Does it surprise you, as I read a story this morning, or looked at a story, didn't read it all the way, about some members, priests of the Papal Society that were busted with cocaine and a lot of gay pedophilia activity, and which was reported to the Pope. Now, I don't know if it was in Rome where this happened, but it was on the headlines that I was reading this morning. Does that surprise you, or is this an overshoot of, I won't say the popularity of drugs, but being that drugs are out of control?
To the extent that the white supremacists have anything to do with it, oh yeah, it's like in The Godfather. If you say it's out of control, that is exactly what the character Marlon Brando played, Don Corleone.
Yes.
When he said, I've stayed away from this drug business because I think it will destroy us in the future if we're not careful about how we go about doing it. And that's when the other character stood up and said, well, we'll be careful because we're going to dump it on the black people. But now what that's why I keep using, some people may object to it, but I keep using a fictional movie made in 1972, and I point out that meeting because now that's coming true, seemingly.
Yes.
That a lot of it is just doing what the character Don Corleone said, is backing up on black people. You got an opiate crisis, so I've heard.
Yes, yes.
I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that it's true, and there's probable cause to believe that it might be true, that a lot of white people are strung out on it now.
Yes.
All right? This is not supposed to happen, period.
But it is.
According to the white supremacist plan.
Yes.
But here again, I mean, where you can make a fictional movie, and that's why I sometimes use movies as an example, to learn lessons, because that lesson was being sent out in 1972 to white people. Hey, be careful with those drugs. That's supposed to be reserved for the dark people, these animals, these nothings, these inconsequential people, these things that are really not people. Dump stuff on them like drugs.
Yes, sir.
But now be very careful that while you're dumping it on them, you don't start using your own product. And like most big-time drug dealers, they know you don't use your own product.
Yeah, what is that saying? Never get high off your own supply, or something to that effect.
Yeah, see, I mean, and I understand one of the characters in The Godfather that came out in a peripheral way, I think, if I got the story correct, in Godfather 2, one of the hitmen, the shotgun guy, Pete Clemenza, the guy who shot people with shotgun on the elevator. I mean, I understand that he got strung out on that product, that they had gone into the drug business, and they start sampling it themselves, sampling their product, that poison that they're putting out on other people. And, if you're selling poison and you start using poison, the same thing is going to happen to you that happened to the people you're giving it to.
Yes. Okay. Let's take a phone call. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Bobby.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Fuller, I've been observing, because we're starting to get into what is called, quote-unquote, professional politics election season, I've started to see in different media outlets, different non-white black people consistently arguing over being a Democrat or being a Republican, who is a black person, who is not a black person. All the while, what seems to be getting lost is that the people that are in charge are the most to blame. Can you continue, or just, I always want to hear you say it, the white supremacists have done a wonderful job of just being master deceivers and just making black people argue about everything in the world except for ending the system of white supremacy. Can you explain to the callers and to myself again how they do this, how they're the master deceivers, and what are certain tactics that we need to do to stay on course?
It's easy. We have a history of slavery, of being slaves, and we're still slaves. Slavery never ended. So what's one of the characteristics of slaves? The prison mentality. Prisoners milling around in a prison, in the prison yard, because they're allowed to. And what do prisoners do in the prison yard? They're bored, or they are given that little leeway, to be out of the cells for a little while. So they have a tendency, since they're just looking at each other, they're not looking at anybody on what they call the outside. They're not associating with the guards or the warden, the prison masters and whatnot. So prisoners of all types have always done the same things. They turn on each other. They start, fighting each other and trying to outdo each other and trying to outsmart each other and trying to say what prisoner is more important than the other prisoner. Who's king of the cell block this week? That type of thing. Their minds become smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's what you're looking at now. If you're seeing that type of thing, if it's happening, it's just a carryover, and it should be expected. But they should stop doing it, those who are, simply because it's not logical. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help. It's not logical. But that's a characteristic of prisoners of all types. And the black people of this planet in the system of white supremacy are prisoners of war. People of color are prisoners of war, so they conduct themselves like prisoners of war and should be expected to do so, but they should stop and think about why they are doing it. Is this constructive? Is this going to pay off for any of us in the end? Is this going to solve a problem? And the answer is no.
No. Okay. TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now here's a couple or three that I'm going to share with you. Stairway to Heaven with Claude, Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby, and Super Cool with Kahari in a hot row. Now these shows are all exclusive to TalkTameRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTameRadio.com homepage, click on programs, and there is a list of all the programs that we have here at TalkTameRadio.com. Give them a sample and see if you like it or if you don't like it. That's all you have to do. Like it or don't like it, and then you're it. Now, all that from TalkTameRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And our topic today is drugs, the new economics in the black culture in the system of white supremacy racism. And Mr. Fuller is answering, or has answered that, but he will continue to speak or address on that topic. But we also will read and address your emails, your Gmails. And speaking of that, I have one right now. This was from a couple of weeks ago because we weren't on last week. It says, Mr. Fuller, to piggyback on what the previous caller said, not this week, but 2 weeks ago, about being contacted by text and accused by suspected racists of, quote, not liking her, end of quote, on the job, I would like to express an observation. I have found that when a black employee does his or her work well and only speaks constructively and politely, we are sometimes accused of being snooty, standoffish, and stuck up. I was written up for, quote, not being a team player, end of quote, because I didn't gossip with coworkers. I am always courteous as Mr. Fuller advises, and I would talk about work-related issues, but this was not enough for the suspected racist. They wanted to know my personal business, and when I did not comply, they started creating a problem. Mr. Fuller, what can a courteous and constructive black employee do to properly deal with situations like this? Thank you, Jane.
Ask questions, specific questions. What do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? And what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, that's on page 71 of the textbook for the Revised Expanded Edition of the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Those questions will fit anywhere at any time, and I want to underline any, A-N-Y, in any exchange of views that you're having with anybody anywhere on the planet, white, non-white, male, female, old, young, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those 4 questions will take everybody. The answers will take everybody, maybe not where they want to go, but they're guaranteed to take everybody right where they're supposed to be. And if you can try it. Page 71. That's the formula. When you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, and you're in a dilemma, whatnot, and people are, seem to be being aggressive against you or something like that, you just simply back off. And don't interfere with the answers that you get. Just have another question ready about the answers. That's the codified way.
Page 71?
That's the formula. Page 71 of the Revised Expanded Edition of the textbook for victims of white supremacy, the book written by me, that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Those 4 questions. And the answers that you get. Don't help people with the answers. That's real important. Don't butt in when they're giving you their answers. They're giving you their answers. That's what you want. Just simply say, what do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? That's question number 2.
Okay.
Question number 3.
Okay, pardon me. I'm looking at page 71 of the
Did I say 71?
Yeah, you did. I'm looking at that.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Wait a minute now. Let me make sure. Oh, no. I got that incorrect. That's page 171.
Okay, 171. Okay.
Yes. Page 171 of my own book. Here I have a notation here, but I didn't see the 1.
That's okay.
In front of the 71.
Oh, yeah, there they are. I got them. Yeah.
Page.
At the bottom. At the bottom.
But here's what I paraphrased it just now, but actually the way I have it written, what do I want to do?
Yes.
All right, and that's something you can ask yourself this, wherever you are every day, because it says so. Every day, all day, wherever you are, ask yourself these 4 basic questions. These are basic questions every day, all day. What do I want to do? But if you're talking to someone else and they seem to be directing you to do something or not do something, and like the caller has said, in that instance, you say, what do you want me to do?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What do you want me to do, ma'am?
Sir.
Miss Graham, what do you want me to do?
Mm-hmm.
Question 1. Miss Graham, why do you want me to do this thing that you say you want me to do? If the person, like the illustration that was given, say, well, why don't you be more social? Okay, what do you want me to do? Why do you want me to do it? How do you plan for me to do it? You have a plan for me to be more social.
Yes.
And then that 4th question, that's the dynamite question. what do you expect the constructive result to be? If I sit here all day telling you my business, is that going to produce a constructive result? And if so, I mean, after I tell you my business, does that mean that from now on I'm going to be rich? You know, well, you know, you got all kind of questions about that. Because whatever anybody's criticizing you for, let them make their case based on what the result is going to be if you do what they want you to do. So you're just asking, what do you want me to do?
Yes.
You know, evidently I'm not doing what you want me to do. So what do you want me to do? But the bottom line question, after all the other questions, thousands of questions maybe, what do you expect the constructive result to be?
Okay.
And then you might even add on to that, and for whom? Because is it going to be constructive for me? Or is it going to be constructive for you? Or if it's going to be constructive for both of us, how is it going to be constructive?
Exactly.
See, you can have all kinds of questions, but stay in the question lane. Don't at any point say, why do you need to know my business? And because you ain't got no, and then it was okay to ask that first question, but then don't jump into a statement saying, you don't need to know my business. Don't make statements at all. Stay away from statements, because statements will lead you to an argument. But you stay in the question lane. The person who asks the questions, this is fundamental. Maybe not in all cases, but I would say, in just about every case that I've ever seen, the person who asks the questions is always the most powerful person in that particular conversation. When you're doing the question, that's why the court system is set up, so that when you're on that witness stand or something like that, and you're on what they call the hot seat, you can't ask questions, because the person who asks the questions has the most power.
Yes.
That's the most powerful position.
Yeah, the lawyer.
So the lawyer walks back and forth in front of you. Where were you at 6 p.m., July the 3rd, 1947, whatever? All right? Take your time. They'll tell you that. Because they know you got to think. Why? Because you're on the hot seat. And when you're on the hot seat, you better do some thinking before you open your mouth. All right? But the person who is asking the question, that's the easy job. It's the person who's trying to answer. That's the hard part. And the way the person answers questions, if they're trying to hide something, or if they have a hidden agenda, or if the person is trying to do some harm to you or something like that, you just keep asking questions. That's going to come out. That's why what do defense lawyers do more than anything? What do they jump up in court and say? They say, don't answer that.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I object to this line of questioning.
Yeah, object. Yeah, objection.
I object, Your Honor. I object. I object to this line of questioning. Why? They know that you keep trying to answer those questions, and you have done something that you're trying to hide. You're going to fool around and trap your own self by the answers that you get to those questions.
Yeah. So
that's why a lot of people, a lot of smart lawyers, when they know that their client just might be guilty, they say, look, you know what? I'm not putting you on the stand.
Okay. Let's go to the Gmails, Mr. Fuller. This is a question that came up a couple of weeks ago, but we were obviously not here last week. And you have addressed this before, but it says, Mr. Fuller, what is the meaning of the sketch that is on the front cover of the original edition of the compensatory concept?
I guess they mean the design?
Yes, that design.
The computer type design?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's just a computer type design, and meaning that I have a statement in the book that says nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. That's a statement I made up. And the design on the cover, even though I didn't design that cover, I didn't even suggest it. That was, I don't know who came up with that design, but Dr. Frances Cress Welsing had someone make that design because she had some type of interpretation of what I had written that she thought the design would fit it. In other words, you can make whatever you want to out of it about what you read inside. I guess that was the message she was sending. She never really explained the design, but when she showed it to me, I said, yeah, because it's a computer-type design, it seems to be, and computers is what I want people to use their brains for. Mm-hmm. Your brain is a computer, and you use it like that. And a computer is supposed to do what? It's supposed to help you to communicate in order to do what? In order to solve problems that you may have, or to answer questions, really, which is the procedure for solving all problems. So I thought that was kind of appropriate. But really, I did not endorse that. I didn't think up that design, but I endorsed it.
Okay.
Once someone came up with it, and Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is the person who had someone come up with that design for the book, because she said that she ran it past me, and I approved of it. I said, yeah, I need a cover of some type. And so she said, well, you can just make it blank if you want to, or whatever you want to do.
Yes.
I said, no, this cover is okay, because it raises the reader's curiosity about what it may be about.
Yes.
And it's a computer design, because computers, in 1984, computers were becoming kind of popular then.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All righty. I'll tell you what, let's do this a little earlier. TalkTainmentRadio.com, we go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can call in, as the caller is on hold right now. 1-877-932-9766 is the number to call in, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. But it is at this particular time, and we're early today, that we will have Mr. Fuller address or speak to his book for a couple of minutes. Mr. Fuller, your book, please.
Yes, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what the book is for is to help you, just like the callers, some of the callers this morning, to get through your day. That's what the book is for. Each and every person of color, everywhere on the planet, I wrote it for that, that encounters any type of problem, either directly or indirectly associated with racism primarily, but problems that black people have in their interactions with each other under the system of racism, because we have plenty of those too. And it's supposed to tell you how to get through the day. It's supposed to help you. You pick up the book. I've recommended that the book be read, not try to do it in one sitting. Wait till you get to a vacation time, quote unquote, and try to read it from cover to cover then. But if you can do that, if you have that kind of time, but the average person doesn't have that kind of time. So I tried to write the book in such a way that you can just open it at any page. Just any time during the day, during your lunch break or whatever, or riding a bus or whatever. And just open it to any page and see if you see something there that will catch your imagination, that will help you to get through the day, that will help you to solve a problem that's going to come up during the day, because we have oceans of problems, okay? And try to help you to see things, at least in a way that you'll get to the truth of a matter. See things from a different perspective from what you're used to, that might be of more productive or constructive value than what you have been thinking of before. That's how the book is written. That's what I wrote the book for, problem solving. So, and you want to put it in 2 words, that's what it's about, for the individual person. You don't have to consult with anybody. You don't even have to agree with what you're looking at. You just turn the page and see if you agree with whatever's on the next page. That's how I tried to write the book. It's selective. It's like a buffet, like you go into a cafe and you just go down the line, and they have all the food laid out, and you just pick and choose whatever you think will fit your circumstances. And if you don't find anything there, well, just close the book. I mean, and put it away or shove it aside, and maybe one day something will come up. Maybe you'll look at the book again and would address that particular thing. Because that's how I use the book myself, my own book. It's a textbook workbook for victims of white supremacy, for thought, speech, and action for victims of white supremacy. You can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what would come up on the screen is the method for ordering.
All right. Producejustice.com. Okay. Back to the program. Don't forget, order that book, and also don't forget to donate. Hit that gold donate button right there so that we can continue in the second hour, which is coming up in a few here. Okay, July 10th today, 2019, we're talking about drugs, the new economics in the system, in the black community, in the system of white supremacy, racism. Don't forget that it is a prison system. Sometimes I think we forget that. But anyway, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please, with your question.
Okay, thank you for taking my call. Mr. Fuller, I had a question about loneliness. I know I've heard you say, my understanding is that no contact, no conflict, and people should minimize, contact with other folks unless it's for a constructive reason. Victims of white supremacy should do that. But do you think that there's any truth to that saying that, quote unquote, no man is an island, no woman is an island, what have you? What happens? That's one question. And I guess the other one, what do you do if you experience loneliness? And by loneliness, I mean solitary, seclusion, desolate, stuff like that. I mean, how do you do? Is there such a thing as lonely? I looked in the word guide. I see you don't have a definition for lonely, and that's all right. I know the book can't have every word in it, but what does that mean? What do you do what does a victim do when they're lonely?
That's just it. Being a victim and you're trying to do something constructive in a world that's non-constructive, loneliness goes with the territory, in answer to your question. And what you do to keep from being lonely as much as you possibly can, you interact with other people, but you interact with other people based on just simply being there or observing. And that's it. See, what do you mean by interacting with other people? What's the antidote for the poison of loneliness? The antidote is you do something interesting, and you do something that is constructive. And always think about doing as many things as you possibly can that you can do alone. But if you're doing something constructive, say anything constructive, just try to find something constructive to do. That's the formula. That's the code. Stay in a constructive mode, and you will find that you will attract people. It might take a little time. You might have to be lonely for a while. There's a scene in another movie that's supposed to be on my movie list that I keep saying that I'm going to get it out, and nobody's, the people that I'm trying to get it out, I haven't gotten around to doing it yet, but I'm going to put it on my website, a list of movies, and one of the movies is From Here to Eternity, that they keep showing every now and then. It's about characters in World War II. And there's a lady who's telling this soldier in it, she said, you know, I like you, but you're a soldier, and I don't want to be married to a soldier. And so he said, well, that's just about the best I'll ever do for you. I mean, you know, is be a soldier, because I'm committed to being in the Army forever, all right, because I like the Army. And I know I can't give you much being a soldier and being away all the time and all that type of thing. She said, I understand that. She said, because I understand loneliness. She said, and that's one reason I like having you around, even though I don't want to marry you. I don't want to be attached to you on a permanent basis, because I'm lonely. And then he looked at her, and then she says, you think I'm lying, don't you? And then he made a classic statement, in my opinion. He said, no, nobody ever lies about being lonely. And I think that's classic, because what you're talking about, that is a real demon, being lonely. And black females are lonely and getting to be more so. And why is that? Because black males are getting to be, as men, are non-existent. They are males, but as men, we're not qualified. That includes myself, according to logic, and every other black male on the planet. Because you can't be a victim of white supremacy, a prisoner of an illegitimate system, and be a man. And so that leaves black females in a real quandary. That's something you have to put up with in war. And I have a list of a number of movies, and I'm going to go, if I get that on my website, I'm going to mention the movies that talk about loneliness and whatnot. Because during a war, females are usually in a position where they are away from whom they want to be with, and soldiers themselves. And we're all supposed to be soldiers, both male and female. We are distant from each other. We are not where we want to be, in a situation where we want to be. So that gives you incentive to do what? To be more energetic about getting this war over, this race war that we have, because that is what causes the loneliness. The reason black males are the way that they are, ineligible to be men, brings on a lot of loneliness for every black female. Black females, sit in front of the mirror and get themselves all dusted up and putting on this and putting on that and going to the nail salon and all like that, and then looking around and saying, where is my, where is he? Where is he? I'm lonely. I'm doing all this. I'm working. I'm getting my education. I'm getting all my ducks in a row, my finances in order and all like that. But where is he? And where he is, he's still a boy. That's where he is. You're looking right at him. But you don't want a boy, you want a man. But we are all boys. You become a boy when you become a prisoner of war. I don't care how old you get, or what you know, or who you think you know. If you are subject to the system of white supremacy, and you are a black male on this planet anywhere, you are in the boy category, like it or not, because you were born in the boy category. Men are not subject to racism, period. They don't put up with it. They're simply not subject with it, not 1 minute. All right? But we all are in the prison called racism. And so the bottom line is, loneliness goes with your plight. All the more reason why you should be working to get rid of what is causing the loneliness, and that is what? The system of white supremacy.
What's your second
That's
question,
the
ma'am?
ugly truth.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am, what's your second question?
Well, I don't know. That was kind of heavy. I'm processing.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I had to say. Well, I'll continue to listen, and thank you very much for your feedback, Mr. Fuller.
And thank you for calling, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Let's go to the Gmails here. Says, Mr. Fuller, how do we start a business again among non-white people, such as businesses your father had, Mr. Fuller, a restaurant, hotel that was 24 hours? I just thought that was awesome. How do we start these businesses when we can't get loans from the white supremacists?
Well, that's the problem. See, that's all the more reason why we have to get rid of the system of white supremacy. There's no way to squirm around that. We're trying to find a way to ignore racism and what we call get on with our lives. A lot of black people say that. I had that position. Hey, don't bother me with that stuff about racism. I mean, it's here, it's going to be here, and I don't have time to deal with it. I got other things to do. Well, I got news for you, Fuller. All those other things you got to do, racism is going to stop you from doing it. That's a guarantee. How about that? Well, I don't want to deal with it. Well, then you don't want to deal with life. You don't ever want to have a life. Just tell yourself that. You might as well drop dead right now, because you're going to have to deal with racism. One way or another, you are going to have to deal with it, Fuller. Stop lying to yourself. You can't sidestep it. There's no planet that you can go to where you can get away from them and don't have to deal with them, because they are dealing with you each and every day. And you say you can't get a loan? Get a loan from whom? Get a loan from the white supremacists. That's the only people that can loan you anything, because you don't have nothing. And they have seen to it that you don't have nothing. You got to learn how to deal with the system of white supremacy, because it's in your face every day. I don't care where you go, what you do, and the more you try to get away from it, the more insane you're going to become. So you're going to have to get that loan from them. Otherwise, you're going to have to rob and steal. That's the next option they give you. I don't give you a loan. Your next option is to rob and steal. And you know where that's going to lead.
Yeah.
All right, they got something for you when you do that. That's all the black people who are out here trying to do it and think that they're going to be successful. It doesn't work for them. It works for the white supremacists. It doesn't work for you if you're black, because they know how you're doing it. Black people think they know something about robbing and stealing. And we do little petty stuff, too, like shoplifting. They know all about shoplifting. They invented it. They invented it. And you're going to con them into thinking you know something that they don't know? All right? I mean, all the black people out here doing what they call big-time criminal activity.
Yes.
You think you're getting away? They know exactly what you're doing, and if you're getting away with it, they're letting you get away with it.
Yes.
Because it's profit in them. That's all. But it's not that they don't know what you're doing and how you're doing it, because that's how you learn. You learn that from them.
Yes.
But you don't even know that that's where you learned it.
Just like this new thing that they're doing now, licking ice cream and putting the lid back on it and selling it. Crazy. Anyway, we come to the close of the first hour. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the donation hour, the second hour, here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse.
All right, welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concepts with Mr. Neely Fuller and me, your co-host, Mr. Bobby, here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, the world's greatest radio. And again, you're in touch with the Compensatory Concept. This is radio the way it should be heard. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766. Our phone line has just come open, so the caller that was on, you could call back and we will get you on. Today's topic is drugs, the new economic system in the black community, in the one world government system of white supremacy racism. They control, the racist white supremacists control everything that goes on in the prison system, and they control the drugs in it. Mr. Fuller addressed that, and I don't know if it's an economic system. I don't quite know what that means, but from my observations, it seems like places you go, or parties or whatever, people are very quick to pull out different types of things, alcohol, cigarettes, weed, booger sugar, you know what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff. Where do they get it from, since we don't have any factories or anything that produces that? Somebody is doing that, and Mr. Fuller gave his opinion on that and how some of that stuff you could see in the movie The Godfather. I do believe he referenced Marlon Brando and saying that was not good. And now, just recently before I came in, I see where, I don't know if this happened in Rome or something, but the Pope was getting on or exposed some priests who not only were doing drugs, but were also involved in some pedophilia activity. This thing is just wrong. But as for us, an economic factor in the black community, I do not know. Okay, let's go to the Gmails. Again, phone lines are open. Says here, Mr. Fuller, I need some direction in helping children in the foster care system. Can you give me some advice?
No, I don't know enough about that. And but if you but I don't know if you're talking about your own offspring. I don't know whether they're talking about their own offspring or someone else's. But if they have time to just do something along those lines, let's get in contact with the people who are already trying to do something in that field of expertise and join with them. Just always gravitate toward the people who are already doing whatever it is that you intend to do. Just find out all the information you can about how far people have gone with that and whatever it is you want to do. Get all the information that you can, the best information that you can get, and then work yourself from there. But I don't know enough about how that system works to make any kind of intelligent comment on it.
Okay. All righty. Well, that's the best you can do. Okay. Okay. I hope that can that helps you.
If I understand the question correctly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Let's see here. There is a question here. Wait a minute. Okay. This one question I am not going to ask you, Mr. Fuller, because I have determined, because of the name of the individual who wrote this, that it is not a legitimate question, and that person know who that is. I am not going to do that, but I will ask you this, Mr. Fuller. Question. It says, how do we create a true system of justice? This is the type of discussion that we all need to be having all the time. Revealing truth is the most powerful act that all of us on this planet can do, and we create peace, friendships, correctness, love, and justice overall. How do we create a true system of justice?
Through codification. And what is codification? You try to make everything that you do and everything that you say produce a constructive effect. Now, that's a trial and error process, because you don't know what will produce a constructive effect. But you do your best each and every day, each and every minute, in all of your contacts, basically with people or with things, with creatures. And always ask yourself, is this constructive or is this non-constructive? Like what has been mentioned in this program this morning about parties and drugs. Okay? First thing you do, if somebody wants you to come to a party, you ask, okay, what do you mean by you want me to come to a party? See, it's all a matter of questions and answers. That's how you produce justice. That's how you produce anything of value. Questions and answers. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. That's universal law. There are no exceptions to that. All problems, every problem that's ever been solved in the history of the entire universe has been solved through the process of questions and answers. So just simple things like someone said, we're inviting you to a party. Well, if you've never heard of a party, what's the logical question? What is a party? And never move to the second question before you get an answer to the first one. Keep that in mind. That's the process of producing justice, too. Because in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists will throw about 15 questions at you at once. All right? And you'll try to answer all 15 and at the same time. And what do you have as a result of that is what? The one thing you want to avoid at all costs. That's confusion. Because the white supremacists strive on confusion. So you don't move to the second question before the first question is asked and answered fully. All the answers to that first question. So I just gave an illustration right there. Simple things like what people do, like what this program was about today. Party. What is a party? And if you say, oh, well, we're going to have a good time. Well, have a good time doing what? That's question number 2. Well, we're going to get together and have some friends over. Okay. Some friends like whom? And so let them name some of the friends. All right? Okay, and what is the party? Now you're getting to the punchline. What's the party for? Well, like something's been mentioned on this program this morning, well, there's a lot of lonely people, and so we get together to keep from being lonely. Oh, okay, well, the party's for to ward off loneliness and an antidote for loneliness. Okay, so far so well. So what are we going to do at this getting rid of loneliness party? a little coke, and and you can bring a little opium, and you can, and because others are going to bring it, and so that's what we usually do and whatnot. Now you get to, okay, now it's supposed to be to ward off loneliness and all like that, but now, is this going to produce a constructive result? Just ask them that. That's what I do if somebody asks me to come to a party. What is this party for? And what is going to be the result of me coming to that party? Am I going to make a problem, or am I going to solve a problem? Because if I'm solving the problem of loneliness, what are we going to be doing to solve this loneliness problem? Because the code says, the recommendation, since we're talking about justice here, you don't make contact with anybody for any reason unless it has something to do, directly or indirectly, with something of constructive value that's going to wind up, and anything you do of constructive value is going to be against racism, because the racists do not want black people to ever get together and do anything that has a constructive result. As long as it's non-constructive, as long as it's destructive, as long as you're going to wind up with shell casings all over the floor and all over the streets outside, whatnot, among black people, and the white supremacists come around, putting up yellow tape and whatnot, that's the kind of activity that the white supremacists want for black people. But to get together and do anything of constructive value, anything that when you leave there having gained something that's going to help you more than have harmed you in the white supremacist plan, that's a no-no.
Okay.
But every black person, in answer to your question, in order to produce justice, every move you make, you want to know in advance, is this going to produce a constructive result or a non-constructive result? And you want to know the details of how it's going to come about.
Okay.
What are you going to do to bring that about?
Okay. All right. Caller, hang on. We'll try to get to you here. Let's see, Mr. Fuller. Let's see here. This Gmail, unless we can get this phone call in here. Wait a minute. Nope. Okay. This Gmail says, hello, Mr. Fuller. Once upon a time, black women didn't get tattoos. Now they do. Once upon a time, black women didn't come out of the house with their bust, thighs, and buttocks exposed for the world to see. Now they do. Not to mention bleaching their skin. What has happened, Mr. Fuller, to the black woman specifically in the system of racism, white supremacy?
Well, the white supremacists always entice black people, period. Not just black females, black males too, to do anything that is non-constructive. So the question is this constructive activity? Does it produce a constructive result? So you just ask yourself, if you're thinking about, well, I'm going to get a tattoo. All right, let's use some logic, because everything that you do is supposed, all constructive activity is based on logic, and non-constructive activity based on logic. Logic means cause and effect. Okay, so you're going to get a tattoo. What are you getting a tattoo for? It comes back to those wants again. What do you want to do? What is it that I want to do, like it says on the page 171? Yes. What do I want to do? I want to get a tattoo. Why do you want to get a tattoo? See, and don't move to that second question before you answer the first question. To yourself. What do I want to do? I want to get a tattoo. Okay, have you ever thought about why you want to get a tattoo? That's the next question. And you answer yourself that question honestly. Well, if I get another tattoo, that's the thing that I see other people doing it. That's why you want to do it, because you see. Now, what does the code say about ever doing anything because you see somebody else doing it? The code says never, ever in your entire existence do anything for no other reason than you saw somebody else doing it. Get that in your head right now. That's what you call bedrock code.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever do anything. You don't make a move. You don't even breathe simply because somebody else is doing it. You breathe because it works for you.
Okay.
And you got to be very specific about how breathing works for you, because breathing has been found to work pretty well for most people.
Yes.
For all people that I've heard of.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if you're going to get a tattoo, why are you getting this tattoo? Answer yourself this question. But if you give that reason that everybody else is doing it, no. You don't ever own, as long as you're on this planet, any other planet, you don't ever do anything for no other reason other than somebody else is doing it? No. All right. But let's move on to that third. How do you plan to do it? Oh, I plan to get the tattoo by going to the tattoo shop. All right. Okay, that's pretty easy. Okay. Now, here's the punchline in the 4 wants of what you want to do. What do you expect the constructive result to be? Because I'm going to tell you what my reaction is when I see somebody with a tattoo. I say, it looks like you got a sore on your skin. Because that's what it looks like to me. I have never seen a tattoo that I thought was pretty. Ever.
Okay.
I've looked at a lot of tattoos on white people and black people. I've glanced at them. Now, another thing, why do you want it? See, go back to that second question about wants. You want a person following you around in the grocery store checking out all your tattoos up and down your legs and whatnot, and looking at your breasts, leaning over on the street, getting up on the bus and walking back there and looking back so that they can try to make out what that tattoo is right there between your breasts. Is that what you want?
Mm-hmm.
And if you get that, now that you got it, what are you going to do with it? Now you've attracted everybody. You're a tattoo sign. All right? You got tattoos everywhere. Now, everybody that you pass on the street, is this what you want? Stop and look at your tattoos. People all down on their knees, looking at the tattoos around your ankle.
Okay.
Is that what you want? It comes on to what? 4 wants. What is it that you want?
Yes. All righty. Let's do this. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics. Now, let's see. I have a couple of shows that I'm going to mention. 3. The Wellness Spot with Tona Kieran, Everlasting Life with Michelle Vanal, and It's Your Time to Travel with Ricky Tice. Now, all these shows, again, are exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on Programs, and there you will see a list of all the shows that Talktainment Radio carries. Give it a sample and see what you like or maybe what you don't like. All that from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. He's been addressing the subject of drugs in the black community, the new economics in the black community, which the white supremacists control. I understand for a moment there we were having some temporary problems as the usual suspects have been in play, but now you can get through. I will say this to a person I think is Naive Bond. If you call in, I believe that you can get through after this caller that we take now, but hopefully the lines have been corrected because we do want to get your phone calls in, and then you can ask Mr. Fuller your question. But right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Well, first I have a statement real quick. Mr. Fuller mentioned how they'll have meeting and then call you in the office. What I notice in corporate America, they'll have a meeting with you there. Then they'll have a secret meeting after the meeting, not even at the same facility. They'll have it when they're at lunch with each other.
Okay.
And then use that secret information with the 3 T's to get rid of you as a black person.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Fuller, I worked at a company where I got let go of the 3 T's. Before I got let go, they paid me twice. They paid me on Thursday like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Then on Friday, I gave back the money on Friday. A couple weeks later, they let me go of the 3 T's. My question to you, were they using that second paycheck as another way to get rid of me?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know the details of how that worked and whatnot. Okay. They paid you once, and then they paid you twice?
Yes, sir. The second day, the same amount. And a black janitor said they were trying me and were going to let me go if I didn't give back that money. So that's why.
Well, you go and ask a question about why you received that. That's the procedure.
Okay.
You go and ask a question about why you received a second paycheck, 2 paychecks.
Okay.
You know, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. And I don't care what kind of meetings anybody ever has. That applies to when you are having meetings. All you do is stay in the question lane. Stay away from making statements at every meeting.
Yes, sir.
I mean, giving your opinion unless you're asked. I mean, kind of be hesitant about giving your opinion on anything. You ask the people who are supposed to be in charge of everything, the people who know everything. Ask them questions. And don't argue about the answers. Think about the answers that you get. And record the answers that you get if they permit you to do so. That's another thing. Get away from having meetings where you don't write down or have them write down what's being said. Okay? And make a request. Sir, ma'am, can you put that in writing, what you just said, if you think it's something that's really important for you to remember? All right? And if they ask you, of course they'll ask you, well, why do you need it in writing and whatnot? You'll say, because I may forget this important information that you're giving me, sir.
Correct.
All right? I might forget, or I might misquote something that is said, and I don't want to do that. Or should I do that, sir? Okay? Or ma'am. Always be polite. Always be the most courteous person at any meeting, or any gathering, or any situation that you're in. Don't ever let anybody be more courteous than you. That's code.
That's code, okay.
And it doesn't cost you anything to be courteous. Regardless of everybody else can be shouting, cursing, and whatnot. The more animated they become, you might say, the more excited, the more belligerent, the more, people using curse words and that type of thing, the calmer you are supposed to get.
Okay.
And the more courteous you are supposed to get.
Alrighty.
And just try to keep it so that you stay in the question lane. Don't make statements if you can get around it.
If you can get around it, that's right. Okay, let's see here. Naive Bond, our phone line is open for you to call in now. And you can do that now, and they'll take your call. Okay, Mr. Fuller, the second question to that question about the black female was this. Mr. Fuller, have you ever had an experience with any sundown towns? And if so, could you share your experience with sundown towns?
Well, what they call sundown towns, I've heard of them. I was in a state that supposedly had several. One, I was born in a place called Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And not too far from that was a place called Pryor, Oklahoma. And at an early age, I learned, if you go through Pryor, it's best don't even go through Pryor. Go around Pryor. And definitely don't stop there, because that's a sundown town.
Okay.
In fact, they said that Pryor, Oklahoma had a sign outside of the town, like many towns, I understand.
What did the sign say?
Use the N-word.
Okay.
Do not let the sun go down on you here.
With the
But
N
it
word.
would start with
Wow.
the N word.
Wow.
N word, and then right under that, do not let the sun go down on you here. In other words, you can pass through here.
Yes.
Because you know you Negroes, only they didn't say Negro.
No, they didn't say Negro.
Y'all sometimes, white people, require you to go from one place to another. And sometimes you have to pass through what they call an all-white town.
Not even in the daytime? And in that town you were talking
no,
about?
you can go through it, and that's what they mean by sundown.
Oh, okay. Go down. Okay.
You can go through the town during the day.
But don't go down there at nighttime.
Don't go through that town at night at all.
Okay.
Or you'll wind up somewhere, swinging from a limb.
Okay.
It's all nice and legit, too.
Yeah.
Because you are one of those people who are not welcome here.
Yes.
And anything that shouldn't happen to a person will happen to you here if you come through this town at night. Period. We don't want to see you. We don't want to lay eyes on you. If we see you, you are alien.
Mm-hmm.
You are something that shouldn't be here. You are a creature from outer space. And we don't know what you're up to. And so, therefore, you are in big trouble.
Yes.
And you just might wind up lynched. And that was the hint that they made.
Now, Mr. Fuller, you've heard of the Green Book. I didn't know what that was, but we did some research on that. In fact, we had a show concerning the Green Book. But one of the interesting, I guess you could call them facts, that I understood would here in the state that I live in, which is the state of Ohio, so I've been told, we had more sundown towns than anybody in the entire concept or corporation called the United States of America, which is a corporation. They had more in here than, so-called sundown towns than any state in this union. Even more than in your state that you say that you were born in, which was Oklahoma, where that went on. And so there was a brother, I believe, that worked for the Postal Service that came out with a book called the Green Book that showed where black people can go and be safe. Restaurants, hotels, even here in Columbus, they had places where black people, could go. And I understand it was very popular. Now, I was young when it came out. Have you ever heard of that Green Book?
I had them.
You had them? Okay.
Yes, and not only that, my father's business and the business I grew up in was listed in the Green Book.
All right. Okay.
Yes, I know about the Green Book.
Okay.
Yeah, I came up during that era.
Okay.
So I know about the sundown towns. I know about the Green Book. I know about where you could stop and where you'd better not even think about stopping.
Yeah.
And some places you better not even think about going through.
Day or night, huh?
You better not show your black face anywhere near that town.
Woo.
All right? You go 8 miles, around that town.
Yes.
Like that's an enemy encampment. All right? Because that's where you were.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now, really.
Yeah, we're laughing
We
now,
just
but
don't
that's not
understand
funny.
that.
Yeah.
And yes, but you are in danger. You show your black face up around here,
Yeah. It's unfortunate that some people feel that way now.
Right.
Okay.
That young white lady will come to, white girl. What you call a girl, come to the.
Yeah.
Pa?
Oh, like they did.
Pa?
Excuse me.
Come here, quick. There's a out by the fence.
Yeah.
And I left that blank there for the word.
Yeah, the N word. Okay.
Yeah.
TalkTameAtRadio.com.
Paul, come here, quick.
Talk to him at
There's a out by the fence.
Okay.
And you better get away from that fence. Because the next thing you're going to hear is a shotgun blast.
And I was just talking with Brother William Dodson. He was talking about the sundown towns and the sundown book, Mr. Fuller. In fact, he told me that you can still order those books from Amazon.com. And he has a few. Those are basically, to me, historical documents to show the places where we could go and where we couldn't go, particularly if you were a black musician on the Chitlin Circuit. I'm pretty sure you've heard of that, haven't you, Mr. Fuller? The Chitlin Circuit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Musicians definitely had to know.
Yeah.
You'd better believe it. I mean, Duke Ellington and Count Basie. In fact, Count Basie's band stayed at my father's hotel in Muskogee, Oklahoma, 316 North 2nd Street. Someone sent me a film. I didn't even know it existed. But recently, someone sent me a film. They got it off the internet of 316 North 2nd Street, People's Hotel and Cafe. And it'll actually show it back in the day. And I'm talking about way back. I'm talking about back when they, because see, I came up doing where you still had a hitching post for horses outside of my father's hotel and cafe. All right?
Yeah.
I came up during that time where you still had horses and wagons in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Probably in some of the bigger cities, too.
Yeah.
But definitely in Muskogee, Oklahoma, you still had a lot of everybody traveled by horse and wagon. Okay?
Wow.
And you had very few cars.
Yeah.
In fact, when we would talk about a car, when I was real young, we'd say, the guy with the green car. Everybody knew who you were talking about.
Everybody knew. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Speaking about that might be one of the movies that you put on your list, The Green Book, because my brother Dotson was just telling me some stuff about that, some really good information that black folks may need to invest in. Okay, let's go to the Gmails. Caller, you still have time to call back, but we had to do those commercials, so you can call back. The lines are open. It says, greeting, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. There was a recent incident in Phoenix, Arizona, where a group of suspected race soldiers drew guns on a black family, male, pregnant female, and 2 small offspring. The suspected race soldiers are seen and heard aiming their weapons and using very offensive language. However, the black family survived without injury. Why? Because they didn't fuss, they didn't fight, and they didn't flee. The black male is seen and heard cooperating with a suspected race soldier, even calling him, quote, sir, end of quote, despite being assaulted by the suspected race soldier. The lesson from this incident is not to fuss, fight, or flee when encountering a suspected race soldier. Mr. Fuller, what say you about that incident?
I say that's correct behavior according to the code. Why? Because it works in your behalf. See, whatever you do, if you're black and on this planet, whatever move you make, is supposed to work for you, not against you. Now, the first assumption that you make is that you are already a prisoner of war. So if a guard in a prison stops you in the hallway, which is all that a highway is, just a hallway in a prison for black people, all right, or a street in a city, that's just a hallway in a prison. You're in a cell block. That block that you reside in, that you call your home, that's a cell block. If you're black, anywhere on this planet. And when someone who you suspect may be a white supremacist, particularly with a badge and a gun, or a so-called position of authority, tells you anything, you don't fuss, you don't fight, and you don't flee. Now, why? Because you are going to go into you're Tom, your Uncle Tommy. If you do something else other than that, no, because it won't work.
It won't
There's
work.
nowhere for you to go. You are not going to get any help, because right then you need help. You're surrounded by people with guns, and you're in a car. Now, a car is nothing but a sitting target. Anybody even assassins and soldiers know that if you're in that little box called a car, you are an acute disadvantage if somebody starts shooting at you. This is why, in the old gangster movies and whatnot, sometimes they'd wait for you to get in the car, because they know if you're out of the car, you got more options. But once you're in the car, and the car is sitting still, you're nothing but a sitting target.
Sitting
they
target.
can shoot that car to pieces, all right? Which is why the gangsters usually would wait until the guy got in the car and then walk up and, You're in a car. You're already in the first step to being a coffin, because that car is your coffin. Now, you're sitting in a car and you're surrounded by other cars with the lights on you and people behind those cars and behind the doors in those cars pointing guns, and you are going to start saying, I'm going to win this argument.
Wow. Wow.
You're going to start a fuss or a fight or start fleeing. Where are you going? I mean, they can run you as long as you can find something to step on.
Or shoot you in the back like they did the brother in South Carolina.
I mean, you're not going nowhere. You're nothing but a nice moving target. That's all.
Yeah, and they killed him, too.
And even if you kind of get away then, by then they know something about you.
Yeah.
You left your car sitting there, your license plate, unless it's a stolen car and whatnot, and that might have your prints in it or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can't make it like that. You're in a prison. The whole world is a prison for you if you are black on this place called a planet, Earth. You're black, and your prison uniform is your skin.
Color.
That's your uniform anywhere you go. You're not supposed to forget that, not for 2 seconds, not for 1 second, ever.
Okay.
Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee.
All right.
Why? Because it works best for you. That's why.
Okay. Question here from the Gmails. It says, Mr. Fuller, we are prisoners of war, and prisoners of war have no rights. However, many times the white supremacists trick us by pretending that we have rights to maintain a pretense of justice. Marimba Annie calls it radical or rhetorical ethics. Say one thing and do another. In other words, lying to gullible people. Given this, Mr. Fuller, do you think that blacks should even bother voting? We have never had a candidate that represents us or our interests, and there is no lesser evil when they are all white supremacists or their servants. I haven't voted since the first Clinton term and never will again.
Oh, that's optional. If you don't want to, then don't. But I vote.
Yes.
Simply because, as a prisoner of war, and someone gives me some options saying you might get something, and so there's an old saying that was given to me by a black sergeant when I was in Japan back in the 1950s. He said, Fuller, a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. And so I remembered that.
Okay.
So in a prison, just like Andy Dufresne in the movie Shawshank Redemption, another movie I refer to often, he took what he could get. See, if you get a better job in the warden's office, take it. Don't criticize the person that does take it if you don't want it. I mean, let the person better his or her condition, because you're in a prison anyway. Why be miserable all the time when one of the guards comes down the line and says, well, today you're not going to have to go out on the road, gang. We're going to give you a little break today on account of you haven't given the guards a hard time recently. And so we're going to give you a break today, and you can use the prison library. Well, you don't say, I ain't cooperating with none of y'all. I ain't doing don't be doing me no favors. No, if they offer you anything where you can get a little bit of something, better than a whole lot of nothing, which is what you got, take the little bit of something, because you might be able to build on that little bit of something, like Andy Dufresne did in Shawshank Redemption. He not only built on it, working in the warden's office, he got out of that prison.
He got out of that prison.
By working in the warden's office. Because when you're working in the warden's office, you find out a lot of things you can't find out by not working there.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
And he had a plan, though.
That's how you can make a plan. So you always take a little bit of something if it looks like it's anything that you can use for constructive value.
And that's what
what voting is about.
Okay.
You're not going to get very much. You already know that.
Yeah.
All right. But in a prison, you don't expect very much. But you take what you can get. If you can get a little better meal, get it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Especially,
I mean, a better meal is a better meal than you had yesterday.
Especially with the current clown show that's going on. Anyway, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio, the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller here in the Donate Hour. Come on, donate. But at this particular time, we would like Mr. Fuller to speak about his book. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, you can get the book, which is what I'm basing everything that I'm saying on. I tried to put it in this book. It's crowd as much of it as I possibly could about the do's and don'ts and how to deal with racism and how to deal with all of the ramifications of racism, meaning how to interact with other prisoners of war like yourself. All the hostilities that go on between black people themselves, the male-female thing. The book is segmented into 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And I think that covers just about all of the things that people are engaged in, directly and indirectly, each and every day, people of color.
Yes, sir.
In the textbook for victims of white supremacy, if you perceive yourself as being directly and indirectly a victim of racism, then that's what I wrote the book for you and for me, about what to do about it on a day-to-day basis. You can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the book and the method for ordering.
Okay. Very good. Let's see here. Brother J.R. Lawson, I don't know if I'm going to get to your Gmail on this. I'll try. If not, we'll do it next week. But let me do this, Mr. Fuller. Here's a question from the Root Dog. He says this, and I'm not going to say the word, but you'll get the drift of it. He says, what is the N-word factory? He said, in a speech, the leader of the 2-time Grammy Award-winning hip-hop collective Arrested Development launches the N-word factory. He said it's a 3-part series that exposes what he considers to be a deeply destructive campaign to demean the perception of blacks worldwide. I guess this has been out since October the 15th, 2018, and he said that it's launched on the YouTube channel, and they have subsequent episodes in the following weeks. And I'm looking at episode 1, and I see episode 2, but I don't see an episode 3. Have you ever heard of that, Mr. Fuller?
Haven't heard of it at all.
Okay.
It's called the N-word factor.
Factory, yeah.
Factory.
Yes. Okay.
And it's on the internet?
It's on the YouTube channel.
YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of it until now.
I'm going to have to check that out. And Donta said that he appreciated you for answering. He said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. I just wanted to let you know that he was listening to the program and certainly improved. You have helped him to improve himself as an individual. That's good to know. Okay, here's this one here. Since we don't have a phone call, it says, this comes from Brother J.R. Okay, J.R., we got him. He says, okay, about your statement about don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. He just wants you to know that he also was listening and appreciates the information that you have given him. Evidently, it has helped him because he stayed focused in remembering that when you encounter a suspected white racist, to remember that. Don't fuss, don't fight, and don't flee. Yeah.
There's reasons why.
Yes.
It doesn't work. See, we got to get out of this habit that we have of doing all kinds of things that we know are not going to work, even before we do it. But we go ahead and do it anyway. And that is practically the definition of what Einstein would say, insanity.
Mm-hmm.
See, soldiers, I mean, they're trained. Hey, you're surrounded. I mean, unless you can fight your way out of it and get away, all right, like the paratroopers, they're trained for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not trained to do that, like leave this planet, because there's nowhere on the planet you can go to get away from the white supremacists, then don't fool yourself.
Yes.
That's the worst thing that a non-white person can do, a black person can do, is fool yourself into thinking that you have power that you don't have. And you're a prisoner of war.
And you're a prisoner of war.
You got to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Prisoner of war, you act like a prisoner of war. You scheme.
Okay.
You try to think on a long-term scale because you say, hey, I'm a prisoner of war. And these people are serious.
They're very serious.
They ain't playing with me.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not going to play with them. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to do what they say do until I see where I can break out of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Brother George Thompson. It might be a sort of a question request, but it says this. Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, we already know that most of us don't read enough. A lot of people buy the code and simply shelve it and never read it. I would like to see if Mr. Fuller would allow me to compile a list of quotes and turn it into a daily calendar. Each day you rip off the previous day and get your quote for that day, and then you can go to work and deal with the devil while we are still trapped here. Thought it might be a good idea. I would like those tear-offs because it feels like you are starting fresh each day. Could you ask Mr. Fuller about that? Mr. Fuller, what do you think about that? Having some quotes of your book in a tear-off calendar type of mode.
I would prefer that people buy the book.
Okay.
Buy my book.
Okay.
Because I could have done that on the calendar and whatnot, but then the reason I haven't done something like that myself is because it might be construed as sometimes people taking things out of context.
What do you mean?
I mean, that can happen easily. There's just what, like, it's been mentioned on this program this morning. Some people are mentioning things that Neely Fuller said, and these things are said, and then other things are said along with it. See, there's not enough continuity.
That made me think that you didn't
my
say.
book is written with a lot of continuity.
Uh-huh.
All right, and I could make up a calendar with that type of thing in it if I just wanted to sell something.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to do is stay focused, because one thing that black people don't have is focus and clarity. I even have to judge myself on that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's what I have on my calendar. When I come on TalkTainmentRadio.com,
yes, sir,
I have on my calendar that I was on TalkTainmentRadio.com on this particular date.
Yes, sir.
And then I have up above it, I give myself 4 stars if I had focus and clarity. In other words, no confusion. I have never given myself more than 2 stars, 2.5 stars, ever.
Okay.
Because out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I checked that calendar, I said, well, Fuller, you weren't very clear. I mean, you rambled, or you didn't answer the person's questions according to the code exactly. I mean, you put too much embellishments on it, or you didn't put enough in it, or something.
Yes, sir.
But you wasn't focused, and you wasn't clear, because I am guilty of that.
Yes, sir.
Today I made a huge mistake on page numbers.
Well,
right. I said page 71.
But we corrected it, though.
171.
Yeah.
But I corrected it.
Yes.
On other programs, I've said it's page 71 on the 4 wants. See what I mean? And that has gone out forever.
Yes.
All right. That's been recorded, and people are saying that ain't no page.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Fuller don't even know what he's doing. I mean, see, so you have to watch even Fuller, and Fuller has to watch himself.
Yeah, watch yourself.
Nobody's exempt.
Right. Well, one more thing about that before we end the program. Now, on these tear-offs that we're not going to do, is it possible that if you did start something like that, that people could misquote you?
Yes.
Yes.
Possible.
Okay.
Yeah, and that, so it's just best for people just to
buy the book.
Yeah, buy the book and present the book as is.
Okay.
And say, this is what Fuller said.
Okay, we got to...
Even if you disagree with everything in it,
yeah.
You say, now, Fuller wrote this book.
Okay.
I disagree with everything in it. Now, I'm going to tell you what I got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. We got to leave it there.
Yes,
Thanks for listening, and we'll see
right.
you next week. Thank you.
Right. Okay.